Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today it's gonna be a little bit different. Today we're gonna be baking. We're gonna call this baking with Court. In today's video, we're gonna be baking a little special something. Specifically, we're gonna be baking gingerbread cookies as well as cinnamon rolls. Gingerbread cookies from scratch. Cinnamon rolls, I'll show you what I got, but I'm just gonna jump into today's video because I have a lot to share with you guys. But first, I wanna go ahead and just show you what I did today. So, today, I, for the first time ever, had my groceries delivered to me from Walmart because I have a new pup and I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to leave her here by herself because Walmart is a very busy place. So I would have been at Walmart for a while, as well as your girl's got anxiety. Got my groceries delivered. They just got here at like 8 o'clock. I ordered at 2, so it does take a long time. So I'm gonna show you everything we got today. Vanilla extract, big ass thing of flour, big ass thing of powdered sugar, small little thing of ground cloves, butter, but not your regular butter. I can't believe it's not butter. Then I'm making cinnamon rolls for Isaiah's birthday instead of a cake because his mom makes him cinnamon rolls every year and she asked if I could do it for him this year. So didn't want to screw it up because I didn't want to screw up his birthday dessert. So I just played it safe and got some cinnamon rolls from Pillsbury, molasses for the baking, and our ground ginger. So those are all the groceries that I bought for the baking part as well as dinner that I'm making tonight. Everything else that I needed with the recipe I already had, so I didn't have to buy too much for the baking, which was awesome. So that was all the groceries. I'm gonna lay everything out and then we'll start baking. Okay, so I put my hair up for the baking part of it. As you can tell, I've separated everything out, so this is all my dry ingredients. These are all my wet ingredients and then continued of wet ingredients. And I have my 2 bowls ready, I have my measuring cups ready. So I have a good setup because I don't think I said this in the beginning, but I'm a terrible baker. Cooking I can follow a recipe pretty well, and I cook fairly simple meals like when I cook for Isaiah and I, but baking, no matter what it is, I always tend to burn cookies or whatever, so this is gonna be a real challenge for me to make sure these come out good. So I'm gonna start with the gingerbread cookies first before the cinnamon rolls because the gingerbread cookies do have to sit for a longer period of time before I can actually like cut them out and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with my dry ingredients first. I have my laptop over here in the corner to help me guide because I haven't memorized the recipe because who does that? You're not gonna like see a whole lot of me in this video, but like I'm not really important in this video. This is all about the baking. So the first ingredient is 3 cups of all-purpose flour. So I'm gonna just use up the rest of the flour that we have before. Oops, I'm already messing up. God, flour is so messy. I'm just gonna have to accept the fact that I'm gonna make a mess in this video. And there's 3. Next ingredient is 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Oops, darn it. And I don't have a half, well, I don't know where it's at, so I'm just gonna like eyeball it and say, that's half. 3/4 teaspoons of baking soda. Oh, Jesus. 3/4 baking soda. 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. So this is just 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. Next is the ground ginger. This is 1 full tablespoon of ground ginger. All right, that's about 1 tablespoon of ginger. So 1 full tablespoon of cinnamon. That's a lot of cinnamon. I hope that was right. Okay, so it was supposed to be 1 3/4 of teaspoons, but 1 tablespoon is like close enough. So I'm not gonna trip too much about that. Plus I like cinnamon. So mess up number 1. Last dry ingredient is 1/4 teaspoon of dry cloves. Beautiful. Oh, that smells divine. So that's it for the dry ingredients. I'm just gonna give this a little mixy and just set it aside. All right, all our dry ingredients are ready, and now I'm gonna move on to the wet ingredients. Cleaned off my counter space because I can't work with a dirty space, so now I'm gonna move on to the wet ingredients. So the first ingredient is 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Instead of unsalted butter, I can't believe it's not butter. I don't know if this is salted or not. I don't know if it'll make a huge difference. Like I said, I'm not a baker. One stick is 8 tablespoons, so I'm just gonna cut it right here and just use this half. I love when butter does this. So it says to beat these ingredients, but I don't have like a KitchenAid or like a beater, so I'm just gonna mash up my butter before I put in the other ingredients. That way it's a little bit more soft. Luckily it was sitting out, so it's like pretty soft right now, so it's not too difficult to mash, so I feel like it won't be an issue. So the next ingredient is 3/4 cup of dark brown sugar to be specific. So I already have this thankfully. So 3/4 cups of dark brown sugar. I don't know where my order cup is, so I'm just gonna fill up this about 3/4 of the way and just eyeball it because why not? Okay, so this is about 3/4 cup of brown sugar, I'd say. I'm just gonna, oops, I was gonna gradually do it, but. All right, so I mixed it just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and do my 1 egg. This whisk is not firm. It's kind of like, can you see it like moving? So it's a little bit difficult to stir it, but I think I got it at a pretty good consistency for not beating it. And this is pure vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons of that. There's 1, here's 2. And next is 1/2 cup of molasses. This is the Grandma's Gold Standard molasses original. All right, so 1/2 cup of molasses. This is what it looks like with all of the wet ingredients. Now we have a dilemma because I'm supposed to pour all the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients bowl, but the wet ingredients bowl is much smaller than a big bowl. So this is gonna be a mess, I already know it, but I'm gonna start slow because I don't wanna mess this up. So I just rolled out some parchment paper because I can't knead the dough in that small bowl, and this is working, so. So after you have your dough-like consistency, you're just gonna cut it in half. cut it in half like that and then wrap them up individually with some saran wrap. Right, so now we have our rolls of dough, and we're gonna let this sit at room temperature. So I'm just gonna leave it on my counter for about 2 to 8 hours. Because of time-wise, I'm only gonna be letting it sit for about 2.5, 3 hours, possibly 4. And then we're gonna go ahead and start to cut them. Alright guys, so while we wait for our dough to set, we're just gonna go ahead and get started on coloring our frosting for the decorating of the cookies. So I am just taking this vanilla frosting. I got white on purpose, that way I can food color them and just make them different colors instead of buying separate pre-colored frostings. I felt like that was a waste of money. So I'm just portioning them out into these ramekins, and then we're going to drop some food dye into each one. You don't have to do the same color as I did. I personally wish I saved at least one just white instead of coloring all 3 of them. That way it could be more of a traditional gingerbread cookie rather than a colorful cookie. But go ahead and do whatever you guys want to do. Again, you don't have to do the same color as I did. So once we're done mixing the frosting up, you're going to go ahead and take the frosting and put it into Ziploc bags. As you can see here, I tried to put in saran wrap to save my Ziploc bags because I didn't want to be wasteful. But just go ahead and save yourself some time and put them directly into the Ziploc bag, as well as trying to get it as close to the corner as possible. I also didn't do that. I put it kind of in the middle of the bag, and I had a difficult time pushing the frosting to the corner of the bag. If you do this, don't worry. I use the spatula to kind of push the frosting towards the end. That way it's a lot easier to squeeze the frosting out of the Ziploc bags, and it'll just be a way easier process. So yeah, I'm just continuing this process for all 3 colors. Right here is when I messed up, and that's me saying that's the 3rd mistake I've made so far. So yeah, this is kind of tedious, but it's a lot easier than buying pre-made frosting. Now I'm just lining up my pans with parchment paper, and then I'm just going to get them ready for the cookies. Once I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and set them aside and then make some room for the dough, flour, and my rolling pin. So I'm only using one of the halves that I made of the dough. So you can store your dough up to 4 days, I believe, in the refrigerator. So you can make one batch, and then you can make another batch next week if you'd like. So I'm just pouring some flour, and yes, I'm grabbing it straight out of the bag with my hands because I'm an adult and I can do whatever I want to do. So yeah, go ahead and just coat everything with flour, your rolling pin, your parchment paper, and then go ahead and grab your dough, lay it out. And yeah, this part's pretty self-explanatory. I'm pretty sure you guys know how to roll something out. I do suggest with this gingerbread and this recipe, I would roll it pretty slow because it tends to crack. But I don't know if that's because I only did it for about 3 hours. I think the longer you let the dough sit, the softer it gets. But it worked out. Just make sure to take your time with this. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to let you guys watch it. And then once you're done cutting out your first batch of cookies, roll everything back into a ball and knead it until it's kind of all one ball again. The warmth of your hands will naturally just bind everything back together. Don't add any more additional flour because that'll just dry out your dough even more. Just be patient with it and keep rolling it until it gets back into the ball-like consistency. And then if you want, just take the flour like I did on the sides of the parchment paper and just kind of re-flour the top of it. But yeah, just don't add any additional flour or at least too much flour because that'll just dry out your dough even more. This is my big old head in the way. I don't know why I was doing that, but just ignore it for this little clip. So when I got to this awkward stage of when I didn't have enough dough to roll out, I just kind of pushed it into the cookie cutter to make it the shape of a gingerbread. And this just kind of saved me on waste. That way I didn't waste any product, or I'm sorry, not product. Wow, I'm thinking of makeup. That way I didn't waste any dough, and it turned out like a little test cookie, so it's all fine, it's good. This made about 14 cookies, so in total with both batches, it'll make 28. So my oven was already preheated to 375 and then bake these bad boys for about 7 to 10 minutes. And so I left these cookies in for 7 minutes exactly, and it gave me the perfect crisp on the bottom, a nice golden brown, but not burnt. It was perfect. I'm so surprised I didn't burn these. So yeah, all good, ready to decorate. I did let them sit for a long time, about 15 minutes to fully cool down before I started to decorate them. And of course my phone cut out, so I didn't get the whole process of me decorating, but I'm so happy with how they turned out. So this is the final product, and you can see in the bottom left hand, that's the cookie that I formed myself, and it turned out so bad. So I made him a sad cookie, and I thought it was funny. But yeah, they turned out really well. Okay guys, so I'm gonna try out this one since he didn't really come out that pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and try it on camera. So this one's a little bit more crunchy because it's thinner, but most of the other ones are thicker, so they're not gonna be as crunchy. This one's good. So that'll do it, you guys. I didn't film the process of the cinnamon rolls because that's pretty self-explanatory. You just put them in the pan, bake it, and put the frosting on. But for the gingerbread cookies, thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me. I had so much fun. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and I'll see you all in my next video. Love you guys.